Hi everyone. As we all know, a lot of us weren't taught how to study when growing up. We go from primary school to secondary school. So the transition from primary to secondary school is so strange because you're learning all these minor subjects to learning all these major subjects out of nowhere, and then you really don't even know how to study for this, because in primary school you had your parents. You don't really have. For me, I went to boarding school, so I didn't really have my parents in these situations. But then my family friend did teach me a technique before I went to boarding school, so I had an idea of how to go about studying. But eventually I found what works best for me, and this still helped at the beginning of my and I know that this is back to school season, so everybody is going back to school, and I think this video is going to help someone. This is especially for people currently in high school. If you're currently in high school, you need to understand. Me personally, I didn't take my grades in high school seriously, but then everyone should. And if I could go back in time, honestly, it's not. Bear with me. I did not fail in high school, but I didn't get the grades that were exceptional. And I wish I could go back in high school, because I know now that if I tried, I could have gotten those exceptional grades. And the only thing stopping me from getting them was me. Okay, so I'm just going to go straight into the video, because I don't want this to be more than 10 minutes. This is my first YouTube video, by the way. But anyways, I'm going to save the technique that I have, my technique, for last, so you guys will be intrigued to watch the video to the end. But then if you don't, that's fine. Honestly speaking, maybe this wasn't for you. Well, firstly, we're going to start with blurting. You're going to read everything you want to grasp for this term. If you're reading or studying biology, you're going to study your notes, and you're going to go through your notes passively. This is first step. You go through it passively. You just glance through, you go through it, and see what catches your eye. Then you're going to close and get a blank sheet of paper, and then you're going to remind yourself stuff that you remember from what you've read or what you passed through. Then the first step is going back to your notes and why am I stammering? The first step is going back to your notes and going through the stuff that you remembered and making sure you understand those ones first. So let's say you glanced through your notes and the first thing you saw was osmosis, and then you remembered osmosis, so you wrote that down in the stuff that you remembered. You're going to go back to your notes and then you make sure you understand osmosis first. The essence of this blurting technique is not that you should go through your notes in the order that they came. You should go through your notes in the order that you personally remember them in. So you go through that, and then you do this all over again. You go glance through your notes, you look at it, and then you continue studying until you find your way through studying the whole, Secondly is the Feynman Technique. I think this one is more popular. I think even blurting is more popular, but then the blurting is not the one you see. I feel like I made this a little bit different. But anyways, Feynman Technique basically says if you can't understand it to the basics, then you don't really understand it. So let's say you're learning what is a noun, and then a noun is a place that a place something. You need to understand it to the basics of what a place is, time is, an adjective is, all those other things. Then moving on, after you've understood, you need to also, when you're using the Feynman Technique, you want to abstain from using abstract words or huge words. You're basically using the Feynman Technique and teaching yourself like you're teaching your 10-year-old self or your 10-year-old sibling. And then eventually, hopefully, if this is for you, you should be able to grasp it. By the way, blurting is used mainly for subjects like science, dates, and formulas. So if you want to remember dates or formulas, so if you're studying history or you're studying something like physics and you want to remember your formulas, you should use blurting. The Feynman Technique is used for when you want to remember stuff like physics again, or economics of medicine, so more abstract topics. My personal favorite, which is the technique I had been taught. So basically, what I call this technique is the triple R's: read, recite, revise. So no, read, revise, and rewrite. Sorry, my bad. Anyways, so basically, this one is different from blurting because you're not glancing through, you're actively reading, and then you break it down into paragraphs. Let's say you're reading biology, you look for the first paragraph, and maybe the first paragraph is the definition. So you read the definition, you recite it. That way, when I say recite, you have to say it out loud, because once you say it out loud, it triggers something in you to remember it, because you remember conversations you've had. So this is basically like you having a conversation with yourself. Yeah. So you say it out loud, you revise it, you recite it, sorry. You say it out loud, and then you turn a new leaf, turn a new page, and try to rewrite it. Then you check and do your check and balance, and you see if what you wrote is quite similar to what you had written, or if it's accurate. And that way you keep doing the paragraph by paragraph. This technique is quite slow, and I think that's even why it didn't work for me, because I personally wasn't like someone, like I told you, I wasn't someone that was reading constantly. So this technique is best for like if you're actively reading throughout the term. So if you're someone that studies immediately after like, let's say you had this class now, you're studying, you're going through it, this is best for like different times, not just like maybe the night before like a huge exam. So you have to do this like you had a class today, you go back home, and then now you're reciting and revise. That way you remember it on the long term. And if you do this constantly with each class you have, or each like each topic you do in the subject, you would see yourself, you're really remembering these things by the time it's the end of the term. So yeah, these are my top techniques. I really hope like this gets to the right people, because honestly speaking, like I said in the beginning of this video, everyone should, if you're in high school now, you should take those grades seriously, because like everyone wants to get into a really good university. And then like me, it was the realization that like, because I think my dreams got bigger once I had graduated. So like, was the realization that the big dreams I have for myself in going to a really good university, I couldn't really achieve that because like my grades weren't like super. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm going to be doing more like back to school stuff, because obviously I'm going to school this semester too. So while I find stuff that work for me, I would be giving you guys the tea as well, because I want to help you guys out, and we all must go somewhere in this life. Anyways, bye.